This 2019 Mazda RF Coupe is an absolutely great car. No questions about that whatsoever. But it does come with some limitations. As you can see, really small car, not all that practical, and not all that comfortable, to be honest. But I have been considering buying a Miata, and so I have a lot of questions that I want to answer. So in this video, I'll answer some of those questions. Maybe those are things that you've been thinking about as well, on whether or not a Mazda Miata is something you should buy and whether or not this car belongs in your life. First things first, as you can see, this car is very tight, not a lot of room. And for me, this car fits perfectly. I'm about 5'10", average height. I would say if you're 6 feet or taller, this would definitely not fit and be uncomfortable. Even 6 feet is pushing it in the legroom area and the headroom. And you certainly don't want a situation where your head is sticking above the top of the car. You'd always have to drive it as a convertible. Now the question you might be thinking is, should you get an RF Coupe or a convertible soft top? The RF Coupe is more expensive, but I think it's worth it. I mean, look at the car. It's absolutely stunning. Really, really beautiful. And operating the top for the RF Coupe is super easy. They've done such a good job. It only takes a few seconds. And once you're in the car, you feel a greater sense of protection with the hard top above you, more security. And my personal preference is just to have a hard top. I like it better over a soft top anyway. Again, it comes down to personal preference, but I would shell out the few extra $1,000 for the RF Coupe. Now, when you get the Miata, it has to be a manual standard transmission. There's no questions about it. If you get an automatic, I don't think you're going to really enjoy it that much because the car is not that powerful. So it might feel slow and sluggish. But with this standard transmission, it's such a well-designed gear lever and gear shift with the clutch engagement, and everything about it is so well designed that it really adds to the experience and makes the Miata a Miata. So in my mind, there's no question it has to be a stick shift. So the Miata doesn't have a luxurious or cushy ride. It's a go-kart after all, so you do feel the bumps and imperfections on the road. But not in a bad way. I think Mazda does a really good job of absorbing these bumps, so you have a heightened sense of awareness that this is happening. But it doesn't throw you off balance. It's not jarring, and the car is still very much in control and stable. So if you're engaged in the driving experience, you don't really think about the comfort or the ride comfort because the seats are very comfortable, the driving position is comfortable, so you really feel at one with the car. If you're just kind of moseying around town and you're not really engaged and you're hyper-focused on the comfort aspect of it, you might not like the ride quality. But given that this is a Miata, this is doing exactly what it's supposed to do, I don't think you would think about ride comfort at all. And especially with the newest generation, the ND generation Miata, everything just keeps getting better, so the ride has gotten better as well. So when you first start driving the Miata, you don't really notice how small it is. Not until you really get out on the road and you're among a bunch of giant cars, especially on a freeway. Even a Civic next to a Miata looks pretty big, and then if you're next to like giant trucks and buses, you feel even smaller. So it takes a little while to get used to it, knowing that you're surrounded by all these cars. One thing that happened the other day was a Suburban changed lanes right on top of me and basically ran me off the road. So you can just expect in a car like this for nobody to see you. Definitely cars like the Suburban probably have zero awareness that you're in that lane. If you're in a Miata, it's probably best just to assume you're riding a motorcycle. Just assume that nobody can see you and take precautions accordingly. If you can avoid big highways and lots of traffic in the Miata, do so, because this is not a car that you want to get into a fender bender. I think you'll really feel it. This car is pretty much meant for one thing and one thing only, that's to drive. If you need to store something, there's a little area back here which can fit maybe a phone or something. This little center console area almost has no space for anything at all. So you're pretty much out of luck when it comes to the interior. And then in the trunk, maybe a helmet or two for your track day, but that's pretty much it. This is a Miata after all, so if you need something practical, you definitely need another car besides just a Miata. So, should you buy a Miata? If you look at a used one of these, the 4th generation, an RF Coupe, or a convertible soft top, you could get one of these in the 20s, mid to high 20s, at least for the RF Coupe. And sure, it's not that low of an amount, but if you think about what you could buy with that money, if it's a Rolex watch or a fancy dishwasher or a 100-inch TV, whatever floats your boat, those are just things and objects. This is such a personal thing. It's an extension of yourself. And this is not just a car, it's an experience. And when it comes to the Miata, there's really nothing else that can substitute it. This is truly one of a kind vehicle. And if you have room in your garage, and if you're looking for something that can bring a lot of joy to your life, then look no further, because this car will do it for you.